Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jazz. Today we're going to be talking about Saturn in Aries, and we're going to be doing the second part to the video, which is going to be the all signs. If you haven't listened or watched to my first video, I'll have that linked in the description down below and somewhere in this video. That's going to give a lot more context as to what Saturn in Aries means, how Saturn does in Aries, what kind of things can come up during this time, how we can use the energy in a way that's more productive versus having it work its magic in more painful ways, which sometimes Saturn likes to do. So this video is just going to be the all signs portion. I'm not really going to talk about Saturn and Aries as a whole as much, but it would be really cool for you guys to check back in with this video throughout the transit, because it's going to be a long transit until April 2028, and see how you feel about the themes that I mentioned, because sometimes it takes time for these things to actually come into our lives. But even before they come into our physical lives, we get these inklings about them, right? The inner voice starts telling us, hey, it's time to move towards this instead. So just cool to see how your journey will progress with Saturn in Aries. And I'd love to hear that down in the comments below. Saturn will be moving into Aries on May 24th, 2025, and he'll stay there till September 1st for his first run. Then he'll move back into Pisces and then move into Aries again for the full cycle, which will start on February 14th, 2026 until April of 2028. We're going to be working with these energies for several years, and Neptune is also in Aries, and he will be in Aries for much longer. And we will talk about that more as time goes on. But for today, enjoy your horoscopes for Saturn in Aries. I'll see you next time. So for my Aries sun, moon, and rising, you guys have Saturn moving into your first house. This is a huge deal for you guys, and I'm really excited for Aries sun, moon, rising people and stelliums, because there's going to be Neptune and Aries and Neptune and Saturn in your guys' sun. And I'm just really excited to talk about that specifically in another video. But let's just talk about Saturn in the first. Saturn is maturation. He's boundaries, sometimes delays, disappointments, and frustrations. So obviously I talked more about this in the beginning part of the video, which I highly recommend you listen to, because you're going to get a more well-rounded approach to what Saturn and Aries can mean for you. But regardless, this is your first house. So this is about your attitude, your perspective on life, your physical body, your health, your appearance, identity, your approach to life. Yeah, new beginnings. When Saturn comes here, it's time to grow into a more solid, self-defined version of you, right? He's creating these boundaries around who you are. So there's a lot of necessity for us to understand where we begin and where others end, right? Because this is always looking to the seventh house. So you may be tested actually by other people or through your relationships, your interpersonal dynamics, to have a stronger sense of who you are. Now, that being said, you could also feel heavy or restricted in your sense of self-expression, in your sense of identity, or feeling like you can't be who you're supposed to be. And I kind of talked about this in the first part of the video too, about my journey through that. And I think for a lot of us, it's kind of like a ongoing journey, and we just deepen and deepen as time goes on. But for you guys, this is going to be very much concentrated in your body and your physical appearance, especially if you're an Aries rising. But regardless of where your Aries placement is, it's going to be about your identity, your approach to life, your attitude on life, your perspective on life. You could also, like, this could be a time where you are feeling more serious as well, because Saturn is bringing his maturity and refinement to you. And so you could be getting a new perspective that is generally more mature. But on the negative side, it can also be a perspective that is a little bit more melancholy or pessimistic, because Saturn can be that way too. So just kind of gauging that and seeing, like, if you're falling into pessimism, realizing that that's Saturn trying to get you to understand that life is serious. In a lot of ways, life is really fun and playful, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of a serious thing, you know? Like, if we want to make something that in of our lives that will make us happy, we've got to take it seriously, even though we can have fun doing that, of course, right? So there could be also you desiring to have more physical stamina. A lot of times when Saturn moves into a certain sign, especially if it's in your first house or your Aries rising, you'll have a desire to work on your body and have more endurance, maybe. But also, while Jupiter has a broadening effect, Saturn has more of a like I wouldn't say stripping effect, but it definitely kind of yeah, it kind of constrains and restricts. So you could be wanting to lose weight. You could be wanting to gain muscle, become more lean, something like that. But regardless, when Saturn goes here, you can kind of be tough on your physical body. So not only is it boundaries around identity, but having boundaries around what your body can physically take will be very essential for you during this time. Now, I want you to think back to April 1996 to February of 1999. What was happening in your life then? Because Saturn was in Aries during that time. What was changing about your attitude, your perspective on life, your self-image, your body, your what kind of new beginnings were started? And specifically for you guys, this transit and back then too, because Saturn rules your 10th and 11th house, there's always something to do about your career, your social service, where you belong in the world. So this is actually really amazing because Saturn coming into your first means that you could be not just getting serious about your identity and who you are, but you could also be getting really serious about what that means for your career and for your visions and hopes for the future. And you're kind of bringing all of these things that you've accumulated while Saturn was in your 12th house, this subconscious work and dealing with endings and grief and closure and maybe spending more time in solitude. Now Saturn comes into the first house and you're kind of gaining the culmination of all of the hard work you did there. And for you guys, I see this time period from 2025 to 2028 being a time where your career could really you could gain more authority, not just in your sense of self, but also your career, also your communities as well. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. So for May 24th, 2025, yes, of course. And then it will be in Aries until I think I have it back here, April of 2028. So I just wanted to get some dates. I talk about the dates in the beginning more, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys had those dates. So let's see if there's anything else. Let's actually pull a tarot card for you guys. Let's give some advice. I already did a tarot card reading collectively, but for my Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Yeah. So, Six of Swords, you're moving away from some sort of chaos into more calm water. And I will say Saturn's effect can often quiet down the chaos, right? He's kind of like a realistic sort of vibe, and obviously much more to him than that. But whereas Pluto is like this disruptor, Uranus is this disruptor. It's like things have been disrupted, things have been chaotic, and Saturn in the first house for you is actually like a calming of the waters there and asking you to have a not just a physical shift, and you could be traveling as well. This is a card of travel sometimes, but really to me, it's like shifting from a chaotic mindset to a more still and calm mindset. But it could, even if it doesn't have to do with your mindset, it could just be a situation in your life that has recently disrupted, and Saturn in Aries wants to come in and kind of bring it into form, right? That's kind of my thing with Saturn is like, how did we bring everything that we've learned, all the chaos, all the perceptions that we've had, how do we now bring it into a more still sense of self? And then how is that going to affect our career, our authority, and our achievements in this lifetime, our networks, the groups that we belong to? How are those things also going to be playing into this more solid, self-defined version of who you are? Aries, let me know how this resonates for you guys. If you'd like to do a one-on-one session with me, I have that link down in the description box below, and I'll see you guys next time. Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have Saturn going into the 12th house. So, what's the 12th house? The 12th house is your subconscious, it's your spirituality, it's solitude, overseas travel as well. This is a house that's very hidden to us. So, things that we may not know about our lives are here. That's why it's the subconscious. We're not conscious of these things. This is a house of loss, grief, closure, self-limiting beliefs where we self-sabotage because we're acting out of these patterns that are unknown to us consciously. So you could be during this 3-year period, May 2025 to April 2028, and specifically, right now, as we're talking about it, it's going to be from May until September of 2025. You may be desiring to uh, go somewhere overseas, go somewhere really, it doesn't even have to be overseas, just somewhere far away, someplace where you can get distance, that you can get perspective, maybe a place of solitude, maybe a retreat. The interesting thing about Saturn, though, is that he is a refining planet, and yet he also can cause delays and frustration. So you might find that even though you have a desire to be traveling far away and going to these retreats, there may be delays and disappointments. And what I talked about in the first part of the video is that we need to ask, why is this happening with Saturn, right? Because Saturn is always trying to get us into more alignment with the self. So when you're discovering these hidden fears, hidden patterns, beliefs that are coming up, instead of pushing ourselves to a point of frustration of why am I still doing this? Because Saturn and Aries in the 12th can definitely give this like unconscious pressure to understand something, and why am I still doing this, and being really self-critical and hard on yourself. Instead, we can ask, well, why did this come up? And one of the things that I do with my clients when I work one-on-one with them is, when we look at these subconscious patterns, is like, what part of me did that serve at what point in my life? And does that still apply now? And this is kind of how Saturn brings us into alignment. This transit from May of 2025 until April 2028, I'm having a hard time remembering that for some reason. It could be a period where you're wanting to do deep inner work and karmic clearing. We talk about Saturn being the Lord of Karma, and obviously, in some ways that can be correct, and in other ways, and also I just want to say, karma's not always bad, right? So it could be you're receiving really great spiritual karma from things that you've done. I did talk about this with a tarot card reading that I did for the collective. Yeah, so this is a great time for therapy and dream work, but also having some discipline with your spiritual work, like really making it a part of your life. I also want you to think back to April 1996 to February of 1999. That's when we had Saturn in Aries. What was happening in your life then? Were there fears and subconscious patterns coming up then? Was there a lot of travel, overseas travel that was happening for you guys during that time? Were you garnering a certain sense of spiritual discipline and getting really serious about doing the work that you need to do to clear these subconscious, self-limiting, self-sabotaging patterns that you have from childhood? Maybe you were a child back then, so you don't remember, but just something to think about if you were not a child during that time. I mean, I have Saturn, I'm a Leo rising, and Saturn was in my ninth, and I was young, but I still remember what that time was like a little bit. So, and I moved, which is cool because I had house of travel. Okay. So yeah, for you guys, I'm seeing mental clarity is going to be very, very important for you guys. Honesty, honest communication with yourself and others, and being really clear about what you want. And first, that means you have to figure out what you want. Okay. So you can't be clear with others until you're clear about it with yourself. And that's what Saturn is doing here in the 12th. Now, Saturn also rules your ninth and 10th house. So this is something to do with your career. You may be going through a dissolution of one career and starting a new one during this time period, because the 12th house is a house of loss. And so we think where things go to dissolve, or your work is just becoming more spiritual in nature, or both. And the ninth ruler going into the 12th house means that you are also letting go of these limiting beliefs. So the ninth and the 12th house are very much similar in that they're about beliefs, but the ninth house is more conscious, the 12th house is more subconscious. So it requires more depth to get there, maybe hypnotherapy or something. Like I said, dream work, because the 12th house is a house of dreams. So you could be getting a lot of messages in your dreams as well. But yeah, so your belief systems are going to be dissolved during this time. And you guys have Pluto in the 10th, and it's going to be sextiling at least for the first go around of Saturn in Aries, which I talk about the dates in the beginning. Pluto will be sextiling that from your 10th. So whatever changes you're making in your subconscious, there is you're either being supported through this transformation of your career and what's happening as you go through this metamorphosis of who you are, what you want to achieve in the world, your reputation, your legacy. There's a nice kind of vibe going with these two placements that are kind of supporting one another. And so whenever we have Saturn moving into the 12th, it does ask us to, with the 12th house in any capacity, there is a sense of surrender. And during this time, until January 2026, at least, we have the North Node in Pisces, which is the ruler of the 12th house. So there is a lot of sense of surrender for you guys, getting serious and taking responsibility over your subconscious patterns and understanding that until you stop self-sabotaging, all of the conscious work that you're doing is not going to be as effective. So this is something that I love to do with my clients. So if you ever want to work one-on-one with me, my description for that is down below to help us access these more subconscious patterns that we may not even understand are happening, and take responsibility for them. Because that's the only way that you're going to be able to move forward in a fruitful manner. And that's what Saturn wants. So, of course, let me know how this resonates for you guys, and I will see you guys next time. Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have Saturn moving into the 11th house. Now, the 11th house is about your community, your social networks, your future goals, dreams, hopes, future visions as well. It is where you get money from the 10th house. So this is really good because Saturn being in your 10th made you have to work hard towards your goals. I just got some cards for you guys. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Okay. Yeah, so Saturn the 10th made you work really hard towards your achievements, but now Saturn the 11th is saying, now we need to take responsibility to define our visions and values and get money from the hard work that we put in. So if you haven't gotten money already, or a sense of belonging, or the right community, that's what Saturn wants to bring to you. But as I talked about in the beginning part of this video, that Saturn's way of giving things to you, he doesn't just hand them to you on a silver platter, especially when he's in his fall in Aries. He'll make you work for it. And sometimes it doesn't feel very good, but we need to remember and ask ourselves, why is this happening? When we understand that Saturn is trying to bring us into deeper alignment with our intrinsic values while still giving some extrinsic value to the world, things start to make more sense. So also with Saturn coming into the 11th, some friendships, affiliations to organizations, maybe some large organization that you're a part of, may fall away if they're no longer aligned with you. And this is kind of the work that you're being asked to do. Are they in alignment with you? Are they not? Saturn sometimes doesn't show it to us as clearly as, let's say, like Mars will. Saturn can just make us feel kind of like frustrated and make us feel kind of hopeless. And when we start feeling that powerlessness come up, that may be a sign that we need to kind of do some inner work, go inward, and resolve a sense of self-worth and self-expression to and gain the discipline there as well, so that we can see if the groups and the areas where we've chosen to belong to are in alignment. And yeah, this is about your vision in life, right? Because the 10th is the top of the chart, and then now we're going downwards towards the 12th where everything goes to dissolve. So we're kind of in this downward moment where we're thinking about what we have achieved and thinking, now, are our visions and values still the same? This is a great time to also build meaningful and long-term connections with the correct people and taking Saturn's going to ask you to take responsibility over who you associate with, how you show up in groups, what communities you belong to. This is also a house of internet and technology, so it could be how you're showing up on the internet as well. Now, I want you to think back to April 1996 to February 1999. And what was going on in your life then? Because that's when Saturn was in Aries. What was going on around all those things that I just mentioned that might give you a clue as to how this is going to work for you. And for you specifically, Saturn rules your eighth and your ninth house. So for a lot of you guys, there's going to be some changes in beliefs that make you have to associate with different types of people. There could be, I just heard that for some Geminis, it could be like going back to school or gaining some sort of higher knowledge, and therefore finding communities that are in alignment with you because you're pursuing this higher knowledge, this philosophical knowledge, or going back to school, like actually going back to school. And the fact that Saturn rules your eighth house tells me that there is, wherever Saturn goes, he brings a lot of deep transformation for you. I think that you guys are going to actually be confronting a lot of like scarcity mindset and hopelessness and feeling like you're doing this alone. Sometimes when Saturn goes in the 12th, there can be this feeling that like your community's not supporting you. And so you're being asked to kind of draw on your own inner support momentarily until you find the people that are correct for you. And then the fact that we have the two, there is some decision that you have to make around finances or job or, yeah, career, something day to day. There's something that is being asked of you to make a decision that is going to be more in alignment and to not do it from a scarcity mindset. And to also really trust, because you guys until January of 2026 have the North Node in your 10th house. So I actually see this that you're being guided to have the career that you desire. But in order to do that, you're going to have to let go of some beliefs that make you feel like I'm in this alone. I'm not going to make enough money. It's not going to work. There's too many questions. I need more answers. But the universe is really telling you with this Saturn and Aries cycle is how do I harness enough sense of selfhood to initiate something and believe and trust that if I put the work in, that the universe will provide me with the correct people, with the correct alignment in your groups and sense of belonging. And also, whenever I see this, and because my Gemini, my fellow Geminis, right, I'm a Gemini sun, it just constantly makes me feel like, are you trying to do too much? And maybe this is a time of like decrease. And if you haven't watched my Pluto retrograde video, I highly recommend you watch that because Pluto is going to be retrograde while Saturn makes his first run in Aries. And I'm feeling like this is actually really important for you guys to kind of hone in on where you're putting your energy and not scattering it into too many places at once, because that's not going to get you the results that you want. So, Gemini, let me know how this resonates for you guys. If you guys are wanting to work one-on-one with me, I have my link in the description down below, and I'll see you guys next time. For Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising, you guys have Saturn going into the 10th house, the top of the chart that represents career, achievement, public status, reputation, authority figures, your legacy in your life. So, your public role that you play. This is an amazing place to have Saturn, in my opinion. Okay. So, I already talked about what Saturn and Aries means in the beginning part of the video. Make sure you check that out to get a more holistic understanding. But what Saturn does is it brings responsibilities, it brings maturation, it brings refinement, but sometimes it does this through a sense of heaviness or some sort of delays or frustrations or disappointments in some sense as well. But he also brings a lot of discipline and structure. If you use this energy to build something of value that is in alignment with who you are, and I talk more about alignment being part of the video too, and what that how Saturn does that, you could make a lot of progress in your career. So you could have a lot of responsibilities. You could have to make big decisions in your career or in your professional life. If you don't have a career, then in your public role, your public status, your achievements, you can still achieve things without a career as well. You're being you're being like sculpted into an authority figure, pretty much, especially publicly and possibly in your career field. But the thing is, the Saturn moves really slowly. And so sometimes Saturn and Aries can feel this like frustration because things aren't moving fast enough. But the thing is that while you have Aries on the midheaven or in the 10th house, Saturn is quite different. It moves a lot slower and it's not going to let you do things impulsively. If you do, you might feel the more negative aspects of Saturn that feel like really heavy or that there's delays and blockages and all this stuff. But if you move into this next phase of your life from a sense of responsibility and maturation and discipline, and more important than anything else, alignment and doing that, taking actions that actually matter to you, not what you've been told to do, but what you actually desire to do, then this is actually a really amazing placement. Really, really amazing. You could feel some pressure to prove yourself. And I think for a lot of you guys, this is going to come up from like past conditioning. Yeah, I'm a progressed Cancer sun, and I kind of have something like this coming up where it's like a lot of times with the 10th house, it's external validation, right? It's your public facing role. Whereas the fourth house is very private. So it's like internal validation. So don't lose sight of the fact that you have to validate yourself first before looking outwardly for any sort of, oh, am I giving value? Oh, am I doing the right thing? Look internally first. It's okay to take in other people's responses. It's just that you want to make sure that you're not working on like survival mechanisms that you've built in times that are no longer present now, probably in childhood or something like that. I want you to think back to April of 1996 to February of 1999 when Saturn was in Aries during that time. What was happening around your 10th house things, your career? Maybe even if you were young, maybe you were being put in a position of leadership, like you were deciding to become like student council president or something like that, or yeah, team captain or something, like it doesn't have to be around career, but what was happening during that time, it may be kind of coming up similarly again. And then for you guys, Saturn rules your seventh and eighth house, so very much relationally oriented and very transformative, right? Because it's the eighth house qualities coming to the 10th. So for a lot of you guys, while Saturn is in Aries from May of 2025 until April of 2028, there could be a change in your public role. So not just a changing in like position within the same company, which could be for some of you guys, but I could see for a lot of you guys a complete change, a complete transformation in the type of work that you do, or at least the company that you're with. Like something is, it seems a little bit bigger. And I could also see you guys entering business partnerships or finding yourself in a career where you're working with other people one-on-one, or you're having to use other people's money in order to get what you need done. So like loans, yes, but also clients' money. So I really feel like for a lot of you guys, obviously this is a general reading, you could be over the next 3 years moving into this space where you are yeah, working with people if you're not already doing that. And if you are already doing that, maybe you're going to be working with people in a deeper way, taking on more responsibilities. Like maybe you're a therapist and you've had a practice with somebody else, or you've been working under somebody, and now you're going to go out on your own, taking more responsibility, taking accountability for who you want to be and what you want to show up as in the world. Let's see if the tarot has any advice for my Cancers. Interesting. The Four of Pentacles to me is about control. I just want to see something. Five of Swords. The thing is I don't want to always say that this card is bad, right? Like, so in a lot of ways, the Four of Pentacles can be like, oh, you're trying to hold on to something. And in some ways, it can be like, oh, you're being really disciplined and focused and not splurging and being impulsive. So, like, it kind of feels Saturnian in that way, that it's really about taking stock of what you have, and you're in a space where you're just not wanting to be super impulsive or overly generous in some ways. Like, you're recognizing that in some ways, like, you need to focus on yourself more. And this can be kind of hard because it can bring up conflicts with others if you're putting yourself first. But what I'm hearing is that not putting yourself first is very much, and this makes so much sense. I mean, it's for everybody, but for Cancers, it just makes so much sense, right? Like, you guys have always, because Saturn rules your seventh, so it's like you've always been dutiful to others. Yeah, and like maintaining relationships and maintaining bonds. And I'm not saying don't maintain bonds, but what I am saying is that are you putting yourself in the equation at all? At all? Like, does it matter what you want? Or is it just about how do I maintain peace? How do I maintain that connection? It feels like there are old emotional patterns that are coming up around putting yourself first career-wise. And I talked about this too in the beginning of my video, like that desire of being seen, how that can be difficult for us because we don't know ourselves. And then we're like, well, I'm gonna put myself out there and people are gonna have all these different things about me. So I feel like this is there is a sense that yes, you may need to stay disciplined and focused, and you may need to kind of like hoard your energy a little bit on yourself more, but I also don't feel like that's somewhere that you want to stay. I feel like it's good to balance that and know that it's okay to have people be mad at you because you want to start this new venture, start this new career, step into this like leadership position, but also remembering that ultimately you are a Cancer. And so you are here to be nurturing to yourself first and then others. So don't fully step into this like, I'm on my own, I'm going to do it on myself by myself, and I don't care about anybody else. Although I'll tell you that, and I know that a lot of people will go that way because sometimes we need to go to the full extreme in order to have more balance, but still. All right, Cancers, let me know how this resonates for you guys. If you'd like to work with me, I have my link in the description down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, my fellow Leo Risings. Saturn is going into your ninth house. It is a house of beliefs, higher education, travel, truth, mentors, finding meaning in your life and purpose, expanding your horizons, publication as well is here. You, during this time from May 2025 to April of 2028, I keep forgetting that. You're going to be questioning what's really worth believing in, what is actually bringing you value in your life based on your belief systems. Some of you guys could really be desiring to go back to school. I could see that for sure. But the thing about Saturn is that if something is not in alignment, then it's going to bring delays, restrictions, frustrations. And if it is, it's going to bring us discipline and structure. So if you're experiencing, and sometimes the delays that we feel, so like maybe you're wanting to travel, but there's delays. Maybe you're wanting to get published, but you're having a lot of delays. Maybe you're wanting to go back to school, but there's a lot of delays. It doesn't necessarily mean that the situation or the decision you're making is incorrect, but rather, as I mentioned in the first part of this video, when Saturn teaches us, he teaches us through pain and suffering, not because he enjoys it, but because he wants us to ask why. And so getting really clear when something keeps getting blocked over, or like there's a lot of stuff going on. Sometimes, yeah, it's out of our hands, but sometimes we can ask ourselves, well, why is this happening? And if we have a broader understanding of what our life's purpose is, this ninth house thing, then the small things that don't go our way can really dissipate or not have as much impact in our lives. You could be committing yourself to deep study, to a long-term vision, or to just travel more. You could be committing to traveling more or having a sense of like spiritual integrity. Once again, there could be possible restrictions though here. And those restrictions can also teach you discipline because that's the thing. That's what life does, is that it doesn't always go our way. And so if you are really clear on what you want, then the frustrations, the delays, disappointments don't have to get you down as much. I want you to think back to April 1996 to February 1999. That's when we had Saturn in Aries last. And what was happening around those ninth house themes then? You may see some similar things come up. Obviously, a very different transit, other things that are happening as well, but still just something to think about. Like, for example, me, I moved from Iran to America in 1997. And it was extremely difficult. It was a process that cost my family a lot, emotionally, financially, and in so many ways. And it was a very, yeah, it was a very difficult process, but ultimately, like, and I was a kid, so I couldn't be like, oh, why is this happening, you know? But as a kid, it felt super depressing. But as an adult, now that we're going through this transit again, you are now in a different position. And you can handle those things in a different way. Saturn rules our sixth and our seventh house, right? So there is a sense of responsibility, duty, work, health, illness, as well as relationships. And right now, Pluto is in the seventh house. And during the first stint of Saturn going through your ninth house, Pluto is going to be retrograde. Talked about that already with my Pluto retrograde video. So this seventh house, but it's going to be in the seventh house for the remainder of the Saturn in Aries transit. Your relationships are, are your relationships, here's a question, are your relationships feeding into the beliefs that are helping your life or not? Are they the relationships that are helping you have an expanded vision of your life to help you achieve something positive out in the world, to have beliefs that make sense to you and your work as well? Like, are you working in a place that's in alignment? And what does that say about your belief system if you are not? Do you not believe that you can achieve more? Do you not believe that, that you're allowed to have a job that is in alignment with your values, right? Because that's what I talked about in the beginning is like Saturn is a lot about values and finding alignment between like internal and external values. And so for you guys, this is coming around work environment, daily responsibilities and duties as well. So like, are you putting a lot of pressure on yourself? What does that mean? What does that say about your beliefs? Like, do you feel like you have to work so hard that you burn out in order to be successful? You're going to be re-examining beliefs, and it's going to be done through your work, your responsibilities, and your relationships. They're going to be kind of informing the different changes that are happening to your belief system. And like I said, maybe this would be a really great time to find a mentor and get really serious about having a mentor in your life, because they can be very, very helpful, like having a wise guide of some sort. Because sometimes Saturn in the ninth can be, yeah, it's like Saturn sitting in Jupiter's house. So it can sometimes bring a seriousness to this house that is not unserious, right? The ninth house is philosophy. Like it's definitely not unserious, but it can kind of dampen our sense of expansion. And so having somebody to guide you through that is very helpful. Let's see if the tarot has anything for you guys to say. And if you think that I am your guide or mentor, I do offer one-on-one sessions and coaching. So I'll have that link down in the description below. But regardless, just find somebody who you resonate with that can help you. I know I'm going to be doing that. I'm already doing that. The King of Wands. Yeah, this is like really stepping into your fiery power, right? Because, and if you think about it, Saturn's going to be trine your sign. That's really nice, a lot different than Saturn in Pisces, which is quincunx your sign, right? So it's kind of like a weird feeling, weird relationship that we have with Pisces. Not bad, but sometimes it can feel uncomfortable. Now, this is like Fire Nation. You've got Neptune trining your sign, Saturn trining your sign. This is a time for a lot of you guys, I really feel like stepping into your power. For a lot of you guys, I see you maybe entering like a leadership position. That's the King of Wands is very much about leadership position. So kind of already talked about this, so it's not really bringing anything new, but it's just saying or reiterating the fact that you are stepping into this new phase where your fire can have form and it can be of service. I feel like Leos for a long time can have felt kind of like stifled in their fire. And I feel like what's changing now collectively is allowing you to bring some of your own personal power to the forefront. Leos, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe if you like my content. It helps me out a lot. And I'll see you guys next time. Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have Saturn going into your eighth house. The eighth house is a house of intimacy, shared resources, transformation, karmic give and take, especially in relationships. This is a house of moksha, liberation, breaking addictive patterns, secrets, the occult. Psychological healing is found in the eighth house as well. So you may have to create and face existing. Okay, let me say that again. You may have to face existing emotional or financial boundaries and possibly create new ones that are more in alignment with who you are now, especially because Saturn rules your fifth and your sixth. So the fifth house is about self-expression, it's about joy, entertainment, love, romance, creativity. So it's a very much about you. And that coming into the eighth house means that there is a deep change happening around your love and romance, the way you love people, the way you find joy and creativity in the world. And um how you express yourself out in the world, and especially within deep intimate bonds, deep intimate partnerships. How do you express yourself? What are your duties and responsibilities in your intimate partnerships? Those may be changing. There may be new contracts that have to come through regarding that. I'm gonna say contracts, it could be actual contracts, but like, starting a new business or getting married or getting divorced or something like that. But it can also just be like informal contracts, right? Like contracts that you have within relationships and partnerships, either a business partner or a deep emotional connection in which you change the way that somebody takes responsibility for something, in which you change the ways that you show up as your self-expression shows up. There could be issues with Saturn here around trust, vulnerability, or seeing power dynamics that come across in deep emotionally bonded relationships or business partnerships, anyone that you share money with, really. And really, this is, though, because this is a house of deep psychological healing, this can be a great time for you to heal by owning your deepest fears and outdated patterns. And that came up with the collective tarot, but specifically for you guys, because this is your eighth house, it's going to be extra strong for you guys to be breaking these old addictive patterns, especially when it comes to money and deep emotional relationships. So marriage partners or a partner that you've been with for a long time. Saturn can bring some delays, frustrations, disappointments, absolutely. So we may be feeling that in our eighth house things, in our intimacy or shared financial ventures. But like I said in the beginning of this video, like, have we tried asking why? Like, really why? And Saturn will ask you to take full responsibility here. Saturn will not allow you to defer responsibility or blame or anything to anybody. And I'm not saying blame yourself, because definitely don't do that. Responsibility and blame are very, very different. But I'm just saying that it's not going to let you defer out your power. And if you do, that's when Saturn gets kind of, yeah, that's when Saturn gets hard for us. He wants us to understand our internal values and align with those first before going out there and being of service to others. So how are you doing that? Are you, Virgo rising especially, but Virgo sun and moon as well. Um, Virgos like to take responsibility. They like to help others, but are you doing that in a way that is helping you and the other person? Because a lot of times when we think we're helping other people, we're actually not helping them. We're helping them stay small and we're not allowing them or giving them the opportunity to grow because we're taking responsibility for them. So kind of just looking at those patterns, but then also like it's not helping you either if you're overextending yourself. You've got Pluto in the sixth during this time as well. And Pluto in the sixth, if you are overextending yourself, you're going to see some health issues come up or some job issues come up. So this is really asking you to balance your sense of duty and responsibility, rewrite contracts within intimate partnerships or business partnerships that have been off balance, rebalance this karmic give and take within those relationships as well. I want you to think back to April 1996 to February of 1999. What was going on around these themes that I've just mentioned then to give you a kind of an idea of what could be happening during this next 3-year transit with Saturn in Mars's sign, Aries. Bring more discipline and structure as much as you can here out of a space of alignment. Actually, let's see what the tarot has to say for you guys. I feel like this is actually kind of big for you guys. So I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't really been getting major arcanas, but I feel like maybe for you guys I will. I didn't. Knight of Wands. Reel in this impulsivity. This is very creative, so that's really good. And like I said, Saturn rules your fifth house, so maybe transformation happening to some creative projects as well. But the Knight of Wands can be quite impulsive. Reel that in when it comes to your intimate bonds, reel that in when it comes to money and shared resources. Even just how you approach transforming your life, how can you bring a sense of endurance to that? And rather than becoming really impulsive and wanting to like break free, right? The eighth house is a moksha house, it's a liberation house, but you have to do that by doing the deep psychological work. So, not just by like running away from something. All right, Virgos, let me know how that resonates for you guys. If you guys want to work one-on-one with me, I'll have the link in the description down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have Saturn going into your seventh house. The seventh house is about relationships, it's interpersonal dynamics, business partners, contracts. Partnerships can get very serious during this time and or they can fall apart if there is a lack of commitment or alignment within the partnership. My Saturn is natally in the seventh house, so when Saturn went through my seventh house, I was also having my Saturn return, and it was not the easiest time in my relationship, but it built a lot of depth and value and made me have to take a lot of accountability about what was going on in my interpersonal dynamics. Because the thing about Saturn is that he's looking at you from the seventh house, right? He's looking at the first house. And Saturn will not allow you to defer responsibility. And so this can often look like, for someone like me who has Saturn in the seventh house, being too responsible for other people. But when it's a transit, what it's going to say is, hey, what's going on in your partnerships? If it's good, great. How do you own responsibility for that and pat yourself on the back for having the discipline and structure to be able to have those boundaries that are necessary to keep a relationship that's going well? If things aren't going well, even if the relationship ends, right? Like you can say, you know what, this is just not the right person for me, it's out of alignment. How are you going to take ownership and accountability over your part in how you played in that relationship? This is a really like delicate subject, and I don't really like talk about it a lot because yeah, it's just a very delicate and I feel like my audience definitely understands nuance, so I feel a little bit better talking about it with you guys, but like I feel like I talked about this a lot with you guys when the South Node was in your guys' sign because when we are in relationship to another, the other person can be an awful person, yes. And like I said, if you need to leave, leave. But regardless, like why did we allow that in our lives in the first place? And so it's not coming from a place of fault or blame or shame, but rather saying, like, if I want this to end, if I want this dynamic to end, then I have to see how I'm contributing to it. So that I think is going to be really important for you guys. You're going to be focusing on boundaries, balance within relationships, long-term intentions and commitments really come into focus during this time. And you're learning how to become your own authority in relationships, right? So that's kind of exactly what I was just saying. So let's see if the tarot has anything for you guys for my Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising advice for the Saturn in Aries. Just keep at it. Just keep working at it. Okay, well, we'll come back to this because I want to talk about some other stuff. Okay, so from April 1996 to February of 1999, Saturn was in this part of your chart. What was happening around then? It's not going to be the same, but it'll give you an idea of what kind of themes could be coming up with Saturn there. Where were you experiencing delays, frustrations, uh, disappointments, or a sense of seriousness, responsibilities, discipline, structure, boundaries? Saturn is an amazing planet, in my opinion. So, a lot of times we talk about the negative sides of Saturn, but obviously, as I talked about in the first part of this video, there is a lot of really beautiful, positive aspects to Saturn. Now, Saturn for you guys rules your fourth and your fifth house. So, when it goes into the seventh, the focus on relationships comes from that maybe there are childhood patterns that you're repeating in your relationships. Your own relationship to your parents may be coming to the forefront when you look at how you are dealing with other people in the seventh house. When you see the delays and disappointments and the frustrations and the, um, falling apart of something regarding your relationships, it may make you have to kind of think about what was going on in your home life. And a great time to do some therapy on not as much as some other signs, but still getting some therapy or having somebody that you can work with that can help you kind of see those patterns and reflect them back to you, which is something that I do with my clients as well. So I would love to be that person for you. But even if it's not that, having somebody be able to kind of show this to you. But you can do this on your own too. I always just find in my life that having somebody else do it is really great, but I know that not everybody is in that space in their life. So the fourth house, you can get in touch with that part of yourself through journaling, meditation, somatics, and just really getting in touch with like, what are these four patterns that I'm running off of? And then the fifth house ruler going into the seventh, like, I mean, this is definitely a massive shift in relationships for you guys because the fifth house is self-expression, creativity, and romance, love, dating. So the way that you even show up in romance, maybe you're wanting to bring more romance into your relationships, your pre-existing relationships. Maybe you're wanting to bring more creativity and fun and self-expression into that part of your life. And even with the Saturn ruling your fourth, like that could even mean that you're wanting to bring more emotional depth within your partnerships and kind of like allow your partner to see that deep part of you that maybe you didn't want them to see or in the past didn't feel like you could show them. So what I see for you guys is honestly, I feel like this is going to require a lot of discipline for you. You're going to have to keep working at whatever you're working at within these partnerships and establishing really authentic and aligned relationships. It's going to require work from you. And what I will also say is that when you have Saturn in the seventh, if you are partnered with somebody or if you have a really close friend or something, the other person may be going through like a Saturn time. So they may be kind of like having to get really serious about something or get really responsible or step into some sort of a position where they're taking on more responsibilities or they need more discipline and structure. And so then that's going to be reflecting back to you and how you're dealing with the changes that are happening with a partner. So sometimes the seventh house isn't even about the us. It's not about us, but it's being reflecting our partners and the other people in our lives are reflecting something back to us through what they're going through. So regardless, not trying to change anybody, but instead trying to focus on doing the work for yourself. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. So, Libras, let me know how this resonates. Please like and subscribe if you like my content. It really helps me out a lot. And I'll see you guys next time. Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have Saturn going into your sixth house. This is the house about work, health, illness, routines, service. This is also a conflict-driven house. It rules pets, your digestive system, and your mind-body connection. So, one of the first things I could think of is Saturn going into your sixth is going to make you take on more responsibilities or work even harder if you've been working hard. Or it could redefine what work means to you, what it means to be of service to somebody else or to a company or whatever. So this could very well look like, you know, getting out of jobs that are not in alignment for you because Saturn wants to bring discipline and structure and boundaries, but he can't do that if you are in a space that is not good for you, right? Because Saturn wants you to look at your intrinsic values and make sure that they're lining up with what you're actually doing out in the world. So if jobs start feeling really oppressive or you feel helpless in a job or powerless in a job, that might be a clue that there may be some misalignment there. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can, you have to quit that job, but it might get to that point just depending on your situation. So if you want more personalized support like that, I do offer one-on-one sessions. I'll have the link in the description below. Physical or mental health may also require discipline and maintenance during this time because the sixth house is an earthy house, but it is the house that's naturally ruled by Virgo. And so there is this sense of like mind-body connection. So mental health can be shown here as well. What are you doing day to day? What are your day-to-day routines? Are they creating a state of health for you, or are they holding you back? Not just from having a healthy life, but also having a job or a sense of usefulness and purposefulness in the world. Because if your day-to-day routines look like you're not doing a whole lot, or whatever you're doing, you don't place a lot of value on, then you don't feel like you're being of service to the world. And that kind of can hurt our self-esteem as well. So this time for you specifically, I feel like is a time to build better habits and healing systems. But also make sure that you're looking at how hard you're working and if it's in alignment and if you need to be working this hard. Because sometimes when Saturn gets in the sixth, it can make you a really hard worker, and society likes to make us feel like that is all that life is about. But some of us may work too hard with Saturn in the sixth, and we need to just enjoy our lives and have fun and not get too caught up in the seriousness that Saturn, the maturity that Saturn can bring. So it's really just depends on where you're at in your life. Like if you're goofing around too much, not really getting a lot done, Saturn is going to ask you to become more serious, take more responsibility, take more accountability, and see what kind of freedom you can actually get from that. But if you're already overly serious and working too much, then Saturn's going to ask you to kind of redefine what this work is doing for you and what work and service mean to you. Now, I want you to think back to April 1996 to February 1999 and what kind of things were happening around the themes that I'm talking about, because this can kind of color what or help you know what to expect with this Saturn and Aries transit. Something I just heard is that, like, also burnout. Saturn in the sixth can often push us past our own boundaries into a space of burnout. So, being once again, bringing more balance into that as well. That's came up a lot with the tarot card reading I did for the collective about making sure that we're balanced and we're not working out of balance from old, outdated patterns. Let's see if the tarot has anything else for my Scorpio risings. What advice can we give them? Seven of Wands. Well, Seven of Wands can come across when you're feeling actually quite competitive or that you feel like you need to take a stand for something. That's really like the sixth house, honestly. Like I said in the beginning, this is a house of conflict as well. And so you could be feeling like you're having to defend yourself a lot, that like there is conflict coming through coming through that, my advice to you, though, isn't necessarily to back down, but to balance your response from a place of stillness and alignment rather than reactivity and impulsivity. Saturn naturally rules your third and your fourth. So there are some mindset shifts that may have to occur, some mindset changes that have to occur around illness, work, health, service. There are some shifts that need to happen there. And also some old emotional patterns. Okay, this is what I just felt with this card and the fourth house ruler going into the sixth. I feel like Scorpios, because you guys can elicit such a strong response from people, maybe there's two things. You can either go into the reactive or repressive, right? So, like, I feel like a lot of Scorpionic people, especially Scorpio risings, but still Scorpio sun and moon as well, because of being ruled by Pluto, yeah, there is a sense that like some people are gonna like absolutely freaking love you, and other people may feel kind of pushed away from your intensity or something about you, and it's not about you. It's just that's your energy. It's quite intense. And I'm not a Scorpio rising, but I have Pluto square my ascendant, and I kind of can understand this feeling. It's like taking it personally, like, why is this person like not like me? Like I didn't do anything to them. But what I'm sensing is that for some of you guys, this sense of defending yourself has either become too impulsive or too repressive. And this is what Saturn's going to ask you to balance when it comes to conflict. It's not helpful to completely shut down in conflict and to just say, "Oh, well, I guess it's just my fault and no one likes me and like this is something that's wrong with me." Or to go into this like super defensive mode of like, "Okay, well, it's me against the world then. No one gets me. It's me against the world." And that can have some really negative impacts in your relationships, right? Like I can only assume that that can have some negative impacts in your relationship. So with Pluto in your fourth during this time and your fourth house ruler in the sixth, you're really redefining more so than everything I just said. I mean, all that too, but really how you show up within conflict and how, if this is a new method or it's a aligned method, or if it's something that you learned from childhood or past conditioning that is not helping you get forward in your life. And this couldn't be just within relationships, but like if you think about it, like this can lead to ill health, illness. This could lead to having issues in the workplace or not finding aligned work. So all these other sixth house themes can come from this foundational thing that is like, do I believe that I'm in this alone? Do I believe that I have to always be on the defense or I have to completely shut down? Because there's a sense of self, right? And Aries is about the self. There's a sense of self that is necessary and endurance in the self. And kind of all of the themes that I talked about in the first part of this video with Saturn moving into Aries, where it's like this disciplined self to say, like, how am I going to show up when there's conflict in a way that's mature and not super irrational or impulsive, but also not in a way that doesn't take responsibility and I just shut down and I just let everyone like kind of run over me. So, Scorpios, let me know how this resonates for you guys. If you'd like to work with me, I have the link down in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have Saturn moving into your fifth house. This is a house about creativity, romance and love, joy and pleasure, children or a childlike spirit or your inner child, entertainment. It's about self-expression as well. So you're being asked to take your creative gifts and talents and desires seriously. That's what Saturn wants to do during this time for you. It wants you to build something using your creative thinking skills or your creative talents. At the same time, in doing this, He's going to sometimes bring up struggles, delays, disappointments, frustrations around your creativity. Creative blocks are very possible when Saturn's in the fifth house. It's almost like you know that you want to build something here, but it's almost feeling like something's also pushing back against you. And as I said in the beginning part of this video, which I highly recommend you listen to, there is this sense that there is a reason why Saturn may be placing these blockages. And a lot of times it's because he's making sure that you actually desire this thing and it's in alignment with who you are. There could also be the same thing happening in your romantic life, in dating, love, romance, which can happen within an established partnership, or it can be if you're dating different people and trying to find, the person for you or whatever. So these kind of romantic issues can surface, but there's a lot of growth potential here as well. There's a lot of maturity that can happen in how you handle love and romantic matters. And you may be wanting to get more serious. Like flings may not be kind of a thing for you if they have been for at some point. Or within an established partnership, you could be feeling as though you want to be more disciplined around keeping that romance and love alive in your relationship. But also, once again, Saturn can feel kind of heavy. So it can feel like maybe there is this period where you are feeling like there isn't a lot of people to date, or in your established relationship, there isn't a lot of love and romance. But Saturn is saying, so can you have the discipline and commitment and endurance to make that happen if you want it to? Also, when Saturn goes through the fifth, pleasure and entertainment can take on a more serious tone. So if you've been somebody who likes certain things like going out and dancing or going out and yeah, I don't know. I don't go out, clearly. I did a lot back in my days, but I don't anymore. I'm like, what do people do go out and do? I guess my fifth house things are already kind of Saturnian. So this will be interesting because I have a Sagittarius moon, so we'll see how this shows up for me. But your sense of joy and pleasure and entertainment may just be becoming more mature, more refined. So it may be taking on a more serious tone, and you may be thinking about like what do you do for pleasure and joy? Like for example, here's a thing that I think all of us could relate to. Are you scrolling endlessly as a facade for entertainment? Because it's not really entertainment. It's like empty dopamine. So like something like that, like taking more responsibility around your hobbies, taking more responsibility around what you find joy and pleasure in. Are they actually like something that you really enjoy? And so if Saturn is kind of making you feel depressed, maybe thinking about, well, why? What am I doing with my creativity, with my self expression, joy and pleasure to create joy in my life? Like, am I doing things to actually create joy in my life for me and where I'm at now? I want you to think back to April 1996 to February 1999. This is a time that Saturn was in Aries, so this may be you may have some recurring themes that happened then that will happen from now until April 2028, from May 24th, 2025 to April 2028, when we have Saturn in Aries. It'll give you an idea of kind of what can be coming up for you during that time. Now, Saturn rules your second and your third house. So Saturn here is really about your value system. And also, so finding creative alignment with your values and your level of self-worth and what you believe that you are able to accomplish through your creative thinking or your creative projects. But also, this can mean like putting more money and becoming more serious and disciplined and responsible around which oftentimes we can show our discipline by exchanging money for certain things. So I could see this for you guys like deciding to get really serious about what kind of creative or spiritual thing you want to offer to the world by investing in yourself or like a business coaching or business mentoring or something like that, which I also love to do with people. It's actually probably the thing that people come to me most about is like life purpose and career. But generally, I attract people who are more of the creative or spiritual types and they are wanting to like pivot. And so I'm very passionate about that because that's also something that I have recently done in my own life. So I have a lot of I have my own experience. It's not just like my knowledge. Anyway, so that could be something that you're deciding to invest in your creativities or taking courses or yeah, something like that. And then your third house ruler going into the fifth means that you are like one, as soon as I said it, I'm like taking courses. That's something that you could be doing too. Like, yeah, deciding to take courses around some of your creative hobbies to see or yeah, just learning new skills. And maybe this is a new skills around communication. Maybe you're wanting to speak about what you want to do or write about what you want to do. And so you're going to have to learn some new skills. Things like that could be definitely coming up. Um, I want to also say self-expression is really big for the fifth house, and this is a fellow fire house, and so you guys are a fire sign. So this is trining your guys' sign. So this is going to be more supportive energy. It's not going to feel quite as difficult for you guys than some other signs. But your sense of self-expression could be becoming, I've talked a lot today, a little bit more serious, a little bit more authoritative because you're becoming more sure of yourself. You're disciplining your sense of self. And there's a more refined and mature sense of self because Saturn's going to be pushing that like that sense of authority onto you and asking you like how do you show up in the world in a way that's authentically expressive of yourself. Let's see if the tarot has anything to say for my Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Some advice for you guys would be nice. So there's a decision you have to make. You have to make a decision. Two of Wands. Sometimes I don't say it, and I know that some people don't actually watch my videos. They just listen. So, Two of Wands. Twos are always about decisions. When it comes here, it's about creativity. It's about spirituality. So, perfectly aligned. Fire, this is Wand, which is fire. Perfectly aligned with what I'm saying. What do you want to take seriously within your creative and spiritual world? Your self-expression. This is a time for you. And the two is often like broadening your vision, seeing like the big picture, which Sagittarius is so good at, remaining optimistic and saying, how do we take small steps towards that today? So Sagittarius, let me know how that resonates for you guys. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I'll have the link in the description below. Otherwise, if you could please like and subscribe, it really helps my channel a lot, and I'll see you guys next time. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have Saturn going into your fourth house, and this is going to be squaring your guys' sign. The fourth house is about home, family, inner security. It's going to be real estate, deep emotional foundations, ancestral roots, relationship with a parent, usually the mother, but not always. This is going to be a time from May 2025 till April 2028 to restructure your foundations. And this can be literally or emotionally, right? So it could be a literal like uprooting of the home or remodeling of the home, restructuring of the home, or emotional foundations, restructuring your emotional foundations. Finding new boundaries emotionally for you guys is what is going to be at play here. There could be some issues that come up because this is squaring your sign around parents, these emotional foundations and ancestral patterns, or issues within your home life, within your family members or wherever you're living and who you're living with. The thing about Saturn is that he wants to create alignment and discernment. If there are issues happening within the home life and the family life, there may be a lack of alignment there. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to uproot literally, but it means that we have to uproot to some degree the dynamics that are keeping us in this painful state. Because a lot of times Saturn, like I talked about in the first part of the video, brings us lessons through pain and suffering, but it's to help us grow and integrate more of our psychic consciousness. So we can start by asking, why do we believe this is happening? How can this be actually helping us? Right? I think that's one of the questions I mentioned in the first part of the video. I can't remember it now. I think I wrote it down though. Let's see. Where is it? Oh yeah. Um, can you get excited when things get tough because you believe the universe is always working in your favor? It's kind of like it felt like Saturn and Aries like to me. I don't know. You're being called to become your own root system, right? This is like the fourth house is your emotional foundations. It's where you stand up for you. It's where you feel like your own inner values are enough, and the external world, the 10th house, is definitely second. So Saturn is asking you to become more structured and have more boundaries and more discipline around how you react from this emotional system and really dig up these roots of those dynamics and build them into a more aligned one. Now, what was happening for you guys around April 1996 to 1999, February 1999? Because Saturn was in Aries during that time. I just thought it's really funny. So I'm a Leo rising and my sister's a Capricorn rising. And so Saturn is going through my ninth house and was going through my ninth house at that time. So long distance travel. And then we moved from Iran to America during that time. And for my sister, it was happening in her fourth house, uprooting the home. So very, very interesting how we can see that in different ways through our family members. Astrology is so cool when you start looking at your family members and the people that you're connected to and their astrology and their transits as well. So for you guys, Saturn rules obviously your first house and your second house of Aquarius. So this is really big about your identity, like your identity and how you've attached your sense of identity to these emotional root patterns, emotional foundations. This is like changing it as from a core. And over the next 3 years, you may find that because you're doing this deep inner work, your actual public facing self, your role, your identity changes completely. Like, it can be very transformative for you guys, and especially because Pluto is going through your second house of money and values. Like, there's a lot of things changing about your deep inner values, and it could have you, yeah, really just becoming more attuned with your emotions. Like the first house ruler going into the fourth is like you are diving into the depths of the fourth house. And the fourth house is a moksha house. It's a liberation house. So there is liberation that can be found from uprooting these emotional foundations that are no longer working for us and putting in new roots that are more in alignment. So if you think of it from that perspective, even though we can say that, yes, it can be kind of, more difficult transit, quote unquote, it can also has a massive potential for growth for all of the cardinal signs, especially because there is such a pressure to change. Let's see if the tarot has anything else for you guys. Okay, I got a few different things. So interesting, temperance. This came up in the collective tarot card reading. And this is about balancing your inner world. That's exactly what I was saying for you guys, balancing your intrinsic values and the extrinsic values of the 10th house. So really balancing that. And depending on wherever you are in your life, you may have to balance that in a different way. And that's something that I help people do in my readings all the time. So if you want to see how this is going to affect you personally and kind of have someone to discuss that with, I have a link in my description below to work one-on-one with me. But yeah, this is about balance, spiritual balance with the material realm, which Capricorn is very much, well, Capricorn is associated more with the material realm. It is an earth sign, yes, 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 but there is a little bit of mysticism in there that a lot of people don't talk about. But I also got the Three of Swords and the Six of Wands. So these are all coming up as advice cards. So balance, and then the Six of Wands is telling me that actually this is going to be a time where you feel quite successful. And it may not be in the sense that you had envisioned it in the past of what success means to you, but you're going to be feeling successful. And so it doesn't matter what achievements you have, it's a feeling of success. And so maybe you're redefining what success means to you while you're doing this deep inner work in the fourth house. The Three of Swords is, I actually see the Three of Swords. I mean, you can talk forever about, the meanings of Three of Swords. It's not a very pretty card. Like people get really scared when they see the Three of Swords. But in this scenario, being as an advice card, I feel like what's actually being asked of you is to break through your own sense of self-deception, self-betrayal, rather than focusing on like, yeah, sure, people may hurt you, there may be heartbreak, like all these things that the Three of Swords is kind of known for, but it's more about being okay with piercing through like how you maybe have betrayed yourself for so long due to living your life based off these old patterns. There are mental shifts that need to happen. There are a lot of times with the Three of Swords, I find that it's our own thoughts that are creating the pain. How can we rearrange that so that we can see things from a different perspective? This is kind of what I talked about in the beginning with Saturn, is that he's trying to get us to integrate our consciousness on a deeper level, on a more holistic level. And so this means like seeing the pain that's there, like not ignoring the pain that's been there. And in some ways, integrating that and balancing that will bring success, a new type of success. So Capricorns, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. It really helps my channel. I'll see you guys next time. For my Aquarius sun, moon, and rising, Saturn is moving into your third house. The third house is about communication, learning, your local environment, your mindset, your thoughts, the words you speak, right? It's also where we learn skills. It's a house of our neighbors, siblings, and cousins. So Saturn going through here could bring up some issues with your people in the surrounding environment, including your neighbors, siblings, and cousins. What Saturn will create from you over this time period from May of 2025 to April of 2028 is to teach you how to speak with precision through listening deeply to the other. You could have actually a lot of mental clarity through focused studies or boundaries around information. Okay, so what Saturn does is it brings alignment into our lives, right? It brings alignment through often pain and suffering from delays and frustrations and disappointments. But it also brings a lot of discipline and boundaries and structure and maturity and endurance and persistence. So, for a lot of you guys, this could look like getting really consistent and committed to some sort of oratory practice. So, it could be like on YouTube, it could be writing a blog, it could be writing a book, getting really serious and disciplined and focused on that, or on just your learning new communication skills, or getting really focused on, well, I want to do this thing, but I don't have the skills. So, I'm going to go out there and study the skills. It's time to really bring some structure to your message that is going out into the world. Ooh, I love this for you guys because obviously Pluto's in your chart, and I've been talking, Pluto's in your sign, and it's in everybody's chart. And I've been talking about how I just feel like there's this like great power that comes with this, right? I mean, obviously, but with great power comes great responsibility. Who is the person who is the threshold of responsibility? Saturn. So Saturn is saying right now, and Saturn rules your first house, right? Because he's your co-ruler. So, and your 12th house. So there is a sense that like who you are being out in the world, your identity, is requiring you to show up and to speak, communicate your message in a way that is super in alignment with yourself, in a way that helps you take responsibility over the power that you are currently carrying with Pluto in your sign. This doesn't have to be, I'm talking about messaging, like writing a blog. It doesn't have to be like that. It can just be how you're communicating day to day with your neighbors and siblings in your daily environments, right? The third house is your local immediate environment. So how you're dealing with people and communicating what you believe and who you are, how you're communicating those things is going to become much more clear. It's going to become much more ordered and disciplined. And also, it's bringing a sense of authority to your voice. So that's where the responsibility has to come in because the words that you're speaking or writing or whatever are going to have weight to them now. So on top of Pluto giving you that power, now your words have weight. How will you use that power and that responsibility? How will you craft your message? I want you to think back to April of 1996, to February of 1999. You had Saturn going through the same part of your chart at that time. So, what was going on around communication, skills, learning, your thoughts, right? Sometimes Saturn in the third can create, I mean, Saturn's in a sextile to you. So, I see this more positively for you guys, but it can still bring some like melancholy for sure because Saturn being on the mind, it's like in the third house, which kind of rules the mind, can make our mindset sometimes quite pessimistic. So that's the only thing that I would watch for is how can you also make sure that you're not falling too much with Pluto in the first, Saturn in the third, falling too much in this like yeah, melancholic or heavy energy. What can you do to lighten things up a little bit? All right, let's see if the tarot has anything for you. Just looking at the chart here, seeing if I get any other messages as well. Advice for my Aquarius. Interesting. It's so cool when sometimes I do the tarot card readings differently. Like sometimes I'll pre-pull them and just have them face down and then like flip them when I do the readings, and other times I do them just on the spot like this. And so when I do that, I end up do when I do the latter, I end up getting a lot of the same cards. So this is cards that I've already gotten for other people, which also tells me that we're dealing with a lot of the same themes, right? And I did a collective tarot card reading in the beginning part of the video, so make sure you check that out if you haven't. So what this tells me, number one, is like this is the way I'm feeling this card for this energy is the Eight of Pentacles in case you're not watching, and the Five of Swords is what I got for you guys. Okay. The Eight of Pentacles is coming through for me, like keep working, and this is the part of mastering skills. So the third house being about skill set is very much on point. So maybe you're having to work really hard on learning new skills to get your voice and your message across correctly, or with whatever is in alignment with your true self, with your soul, right? Because Saturn was your 12th. So you may have to be doing a lot of work around this, and also you could be like writing or communicating more about spiritual topics as well. Just something for some of you guys. Obviously, this is a very general reading. So, and then with the fifth, with the Five of Swords, what I'm feeling is that through using your voice in an authentic way, you will attract people who disagree with you. And can you do it anyway? And how do you structure your own internal mindset so that you are no longer swayed too much, right? We're all human. We're going to be swayed. We're going to be affected by people's opinions, but that you're not swayed too much by what other people think about how you are expressing yourself now out in the world. So, Aquarius, let me know how this resonates for you guys. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one, I'll have the link in the description below. And if not, if you guys could just like and subscribe if you like this content, it would really help my channel. I'll see you guys next time. For my Pisces sun, moon, and rising, you guys have Saturn moving into your second house. The second house is about money, values, self-worth, self-esteem. This is a powerful time for you guys to get serious about your finances and your flow of resources. This is also a time for you guys to get really serious about your self-worth and your self-esteem. Saturn teaches us alignment through suffering and pain oftentimes. And for you guys, you may feel this heaviness or a sense of lack in your finances or in your sense of self-worth and value at first. But that's because Saturn wants you to strip it down and find and build true self-reliance and value. So if you're feeling low during this time, which is common when Saturn moves into certain parts of our charts, he can bring melancholy, but it's because it's a signal that you need to search a little bit deeper during this time. There's something that you're missing, especially because Saturn rules your 12th and your 11th house. So the 12th house ruler coming into the second is like, how are you self-sabotaging your finances? How are you going based off of old patterns, old subconscious patterns, right? So you're gonna have to do subconscious work, which I love to do with my clients. So I can definitely always help with this if you feel called to work with me. But regardless, however you feel aligned to work with this energy, doing this subconscious work to see how are you self-sabotaging your finances and your self-worth and your own value without even knowing it, right? And this could have something to do with the people that you're around as well, like what kind of community you have, because Saturn rules your 11th house going into the second. Maybe joining new communities can help bring you money, or maybe you're stuck in communities that don't build you up, that make you feel like you're not worthy enough. Or maybe you're in communities that are draining you of your resources. I think this is an important time for you guys to also learn how to earn resources and money in aligned and sustainable ways that are actually reflective of your own inner value. So that's why, to me, the money aspect of the second house is very much there. But at the cornerstone, at the root of the second house, it's your value, because money is just one way of seeing value in the world. So if we don't feel like we are of value, or we are bringing value, or we are worth it, or we have low self-esteem, then money doesn't flow to us as easily because it doesn't feel like it's on the same frequency. We're more in a frequency of lack and scarcity. So I have a feeling that this is going to be, for a lot of my Pisces, I think what I'm feeling for you guys is that this may feel more difficult, but it is, because of that, it has more of an opportunity to become even more fruitful than maybe other signs. And that's kind of like how Saturn in Aries works. I talked about this in the beginning part of this video because Saturn is in his fall in Aries. So oftentimes it gets us to a lot of growth, but through more struggle than, let's say, if Saturn was exalted in Libra, because Saturn doesn't necessarily love being in the sign. But I feel that specifically for you guys, you're gonna have to dig deeper than maybe some other signs. But if you do the work, you're going to have really great results in your self-esteem, in how much you value yourself, but also possibly in how much money you make. And this transit's happening from May 2025 to April 2028. So you've got time, right? Let's see if the tarot has anything else that it wants to say to you as advice. For my Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So I want you to think back to April of 1996 as well, to February of 1999. And see, I had a feeling that you guys, yeah, I had a feeling that you guys were gonna, like, I just kept feeling like lack. That's what I kept hearing, is lack, lack, lack. Okay, anyway, so April 1996 to February 1999. What was going on around your sense of self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, your resources, your possessions, your money, your income? How are you spending it? How are you making it? That might give you some clues as to what's going on now. I just realized, I think the reason why I'm getting this sense that it's going to be a lot, you're going to have to dig deeper, is because not only does Saturn rule your 12th house, obviously, but you got Pluto there, right? So Pluto, but the good thing is Pluto and Saturn, especially in the first several degrees of Saturn, they're going to be sextiling each other, but regardless, the whole time by sign. So they're helping each other out. And so it's your subconscious and limiting beliefs are going to be helping you in figuring out your self-worth and your money issues. So they're kind of helping each other out. But you're gonna have to dig deep. And when you dig deep, you may find that you feel stuck. This is very common with Saturn, right? Especially Saturn Aries. It can cause frustration because you feel powerless, you feel helpless, you feel like you've tried, and no matter what you do, it's just not changing. But the Eight of Swords is so indicative of this 12th house thing. How are you how are you keeping yourself stuck? How do you release the blindfold and see what it is that needs to be seen by you so that you can be released, so you can have liberation from these old patterns that are no longer working for you? The Eight of Swords to me is actually, once again, a really good sign. that it's you hold the keys to your liberation. You hold the keys to your freedom. How are you going to use that key? Are you going to use it? You know, and I say this, and I'm obviously recognizing as someone who's also, and you know, the thing about healing and growth is that once we take this step towards that, you know, self-growth process, um, it's a never-ending journey, right? And which is why I think a lot of people resist it because there's never an end to it per se, right? But we learn how to take action without having to be dependent on there being an end to our healing, right? So I feel as though this is just telling me that you are going to see that in a lot of ways in the second house part of your chart, you have been holding yourself back. And that's not to blame yourself or to fault or shame yourself, but to take full accountability over it. So, Pisces, let me know how that resonates for you. If you'd like to work with me, I'll have that link in the description. And if you can like and subscribe, if you like my content, please do. It really helps my channel out, and I'll see you guys next time.